On the news tonight, Nigerians want more investment for economic growth. Former Governor Okorocha gets bail. Governor Yitola says nothing can distract him from food distribution to the people. African Union wants EU leaders against expulsion of Russian banks from financial messaging. Good evening and welcome to the major report. Babatunde Bondatito is my name. Financial experts have called on the federal government and other stakeholders in the economic sector to make more profit to the government coffers. They made the call consequent upon the warning by International Monetary Fund, IMF, that Nigeria's debt is likely to hit 7.7% in 5 years. Our reporter, Oluwatobiloba Odunuga, has the details.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has projected that Nigeria's total public debt will rise steadily to 44.2% of gross domestic product (GDP) by 2027. The IMF gave this forecast in its monthly fiscal monitor, adding that the total spending of the federal and state governments will rise into 6.4% of the GDP this year, 2022, from 6.0% at the end of 2021. According to the Debt Management Office, national public debt rose by 20% year-on-year to 39.56 trillion naira in 2021 from 32.92 trillion naira in 2020. The IMF, however, maintained that nation's debt to GDP ratio stood at 37.0% at the end of 2021 and will rise to 37.4% in 2022, 38.8% in 2023, 40.2% in 2024, 41.6% in 2025, 42.9% in 2026 and to 44.2% in 2027. The IMF also projected that the government's fiscal deficit will slightly improve from 6.4% to 5.9% in 2023 and 2024, before deteriorating once again to 6.1% in 2025, 6.3% in 2026, and 6.4% in 2027. Consequent upon this development, economics, including Dr. Yinka Anjus, Johnson Chukwu, and Professor Ken Ife, in separate interviews, maintained that Nigeria is blessed with so many mineral resources, adding that it is high time Nigeria started making judicious use of the natural mineral resources. The trial, however, called on the federal government and other stakeholders to invest more in infrastructural projects, which will generate more revenue to the government coffers with lots of employment opportunities.
Are we generating enough revenue to match up with these needed areas? I think we can spend our generated revenue. The answer is no. Don't forget, we were just through with COVID-19 issue. As we speak now, there's a war going on between Ukraine and Russia. These issues will have effect on us.
Are we borrowing for the right purpose? The answer is yes, because the focus is on infrastructure and within the law and human resource development. Do we actually need to borrow? The answer is yes, because we don't have enough.
Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has warned that the global community faces a general debt spike, food shortage in relation to unrest and energy crisis. If this is to come to pass, countries of the world, and Nigeria in particular, need to pay unwavering attention. Oluwatobiloba Odunuga reporting for OSBC News.
Court is sitting in Abuja has granted bail to the detained former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, to the tune of 500 million naira with one surety in life sum. Trial Judge Nyang Ekwo accepted Okorocha's release on bail after he dismissed a counter affidavit the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission filed against him. EFCC, through its lawyer, O.C. Ogu, urged the court to allow the former governor to remain in custody, alleging that he posed a flight risk. The prosecution maintained that Okorocha not only breached the administrative bail it early granted to him, but equally made himself unaccessible, a situation that led to his forceful arrest on May 24. He told the court that the ex-prior governor, who is facing a 17-count money laundering charge, has the capacity to interfere with some of its proposed witnesses. He therefore begged the court to release him on bail on self-recognizance or in the most regular times, noting that the charge against him contained billable offenses. In a short ruling, Trial Judge Ekwo said he was minded to excuse his discretion in favor of the defendant. He ordered the defendant to produce more surety that will be a responsible citizen and an owner of a landed property in Abuja worth the total bail sum Nigerians have called on the federal government to religiously implement strategies that will help increase crop production and reduce food crisis in the country. They made the call against the background of the report by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, that about 19.4 million Nigerians will face food crisis and nutrition insecurity by August this year. OSBC reporter Oluchi Yamuda has the details.
National and international organizations have consistently projected that many Nigerians risk hunger crises, going by the level of insecurity in the northern part of the country, health issues in the southern part, as well as other crimes and criminalities across the country. The latest projection from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, that about 19.4 million Nigerians will face food crisis and nutrition insecurity by August this year. The latest projection is from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, which noted that about 19.4 million Nigerians will face food crisis and nutrition insecurity by August this year. The Executive Secretary, ECOWAS Rice Observatory, Dr. Bola Dale Adebowale, said the food crisis is being fueled by the fact that crop production is not meeting population growth, while the nation's agricultural sector is threatened by insecurity, adverse weather conditions, and climate change. She added that the bane of food insecurity also includes being characterized by low mechanization, poor seed quality and varieties, low access to agri-credits, low agro-processing capacity, low interest in agricultural research, high prevalence of systemic inefficiencies, among others. Speaking on this development, former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, said the federal government should implement strategies to ensure that crop production increase significantly so as to reverse the trend.
We must give agribusiness a new image and make farmers the kings which they are as sustainers of lives and foundations of economic activity. Put another way, agribusiness must be dignified and agriculture must be made glamorous.
Speaking in the same vein, the chairman, Cassava Farmers Association of Nigeria in the state of Osun, Dr. David Ogunshade, said hunger crisis, which is already affecting many Nigerians, could be reduced if governments at all levels would invest massively in agriculture by ensuring that only genuine farmers have access to loans and fertilizer.
Because of inflation, farm equipment, for example, skyrocketed. Last year we plowed an acre of 5,000. This year is about 17,000. You see the gap. So how many of our farmers can afford to pay for a tractor? Even to plow 2 or 3 acres. Then I think planting materials is not afford them. Because the Greek is scientific now.
He equally attributed food crisis in the country to climate change, calling on the federal government to join other world leaders and take action against climate change.
Yeah, all massive government intervention, so that a lot of people will be encouraged to go into farming, more especially the youth. We should encourage our people to also invest in agriculture to complement government effort, because government alone cannot do everything.
Experts are of the opinion that once the country is secured, farmers will not be scared of going to the farm, and Nigeria will not suffer more from hunger that is already affecting the land. Oluchi Amuda, OSBC News.
Journalists have been encouraged to focus more on solutions to problems instead of harping on the problems. Done in the Department of Mass Communication, Fountain University, Osogbo, Dr. Rashid Adebiyi, who stated this while featuring on an OSBC TV program, Newsmaker regretted that reportage of and reporting problems over the years by newsmen have not brought impactful solutions to the problems. Accepting that government has a lot to do in solving communal problems, Dr. Adebiyi opined that communities themselves can tackle some of the challenges with a duty on journalists to report such efforts to alert the government instead of writing or reporting to bash the government all the time. He speaks.
When we talk about the problem so much, what's next? Okay. Yeah, do we allow the problem to overwhelm us? It's condemnable that things that people are supposed to do, they're putting it on the doorsteps of some other agencies. For instance, every problem we have is about government. But of course, there is nowhere in the world where the government does everything. The government will play its own part. The citizens too must play their own part. So, looking at the scenario at that time, people that reported the problem and people that also escalated it by giving responses that is placing the blame elsewhere instead of looking within and looking at what people are supposed to do at that time, they are focusing on the problem. So, a solution journalist, a solutions person, instead of focusing on the problem, will look at what people are doing to respond to the problem. Okay, for instance, if, during that time, we had in a community where the people of those communities stood up and said, all the youth of the town, called them to a meeting and appealed to them that they should maintain calm and showed understand that yes, we had COVID, we had NSAS and all of that, but in all of this, all of us in this community can rise up to solve our own problem. Okay? So what we are saying is, when we have problems, instead of focusing on the problems, why not focusing on people who are doing differently to tackle and respond to the problem?
In the meantime, Governor Adegboyega Oyetola has condemned in stronger terms shooting of the Nation newspaper reporter Toba Adedeji and one other citizen. In a statement by Chief Press Secretary Ismail Obekwidan, Governor Oyetola, who is currently in Abuja for some present state on national matters, said shooting at unarmed citizens was completely unacceptable, irresponsible, condemnable, and unfortunate, adding that the sad incident could have been avoided. Journalist victim Adedeji and yet to be identified citizens were reportedly shot by some described as overzealous policemen who were trying to disperse a group of people who had gathered to mourn the death of Abiola Afolabi, who was allegedly killed by police officers last month. The state government of Osun has reiterated its commitment to continue to champion its statutory obligations towards advancing the socio-economic fortunes and general well-being of the citizens, despite the fact that the state is 46 days to the governorship election. Speaking during the 14th flag-off ceremony of the multipurpose hall of the Local Government Service Commission State Government Secretariat, Governor Oyetola said the scheme was not designed for political patronage, hence the need for its continuation and sustainability since its inception. Represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Prince Wale Oyebamiji, Governor Oyetola noted that his government remained resolute to its commitment to monthly distribution of food items to citizens, and that nothing, not even the gubernatorial election, would distract it from implementing the scheme to bring succor to the people and banishing the scourge of hunger and poverty in the state. He said the scheme, which has become a point of reference to many, will be implemented throughout the period of his administration, and it will continue when re-elected for a second term. Osun State Governor Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola will on Thursday personally present bond certificates to retired primary school teachers, local government workers, retired secondary school teachers, civil servants of ministries, departments and agencies, and retirees from the tertiary institutions in the state. This is contained in a statement by the head of service, Dr. Festus Olowoyega Oyebade. The statement also said, at the same occasion, the governor will formally present the state executive members of the Nigerian Union of Teachers the approved circular for the implementation of the 40 years of service to all primary and secondary school teachers in the state. The venue is the Local Government Service Commission in the morning. Governor Oyetola assures all workers of more juicy welfare packages and now and in the future. Now to health-related stories. Governor Oyetola has reassured his administration's commitment at ensuring healthy living of the people. The governor stated this at the Nigerian Medical Students Association Osun Health Summit 2022. Oluwatobiloba Odunuga has details.
Speaking at the Osun Health Summit 2022, organized by the Nigerian Medical Students Association, NIMSA, in collaboration with Osun Committee on Health, Governor Adegboyega Oyetola maintained that the government needs the collaborative effort of the people and the state so as to improve the level of healthcare delivery. The governor, who was represented by the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Rafiu Samatu, said the administration of Governor Oyetola has put in place different measures as regards the qualitative healthcare delivery in the nooks and crannies of the state. He, however, maintained his administration's prioritizes primary health delivery, which is believed to be accessible to all and sundry in the state.
We as a government, we need to do our bit to ensure that we improve on health of our people, just as we had demonstrated in the state of Osun.
Also speaking, Executive Secretary Osun Health Insurance Scheme, Dr. Adeniyi Ogini, there is need for the repositioning of the health sector in the country, stressing that the Osun Health Summit is timely so as to address issues on the status of the public health sector, public health facilities, and the quality of their services. Dr. Ogini, however, lamented on how Nigerian doctors and nurses flee abroad because of low encouragement, urging government at all levels and well-meaning individuals, including the stakeholders, to find solutions to the lacunae.
It is to address the issue of the status of public health sector, the public health facilities, and their governance, and the operations and then the quality of service that we get from there.
Earlier in his address, Nigerian Medical Students Association NIMSA National Director Temitayo Matthew maintained that the 2022 Osun Health Summit is targeted at providing solutions to numerous challenges plaguing the health sector in the state by putting actionable steps forward for both government and non-governmental institutions. The NIMSA National Director stated further that Osun Health Summit 2022 will culminate in final communique, which will provide ideas of policies, plans, projects, and initiatives for the government to embark on at all levels to fast-track growth, development, and betterment of health sector in the state.
"21 cases of monkeypox disease have been recorded between last month and this month." In a statement in Abuja, Director General of NCDC, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, noted that genomics surveillance was ongoing at the Center's National Reference Laboratory in Abuja and had been confirmed to be caused by the West African clade monkeypox virus. He explained that the measure followed the report of a preliminary risk assessment done by a group of subject matter experts from the NCDC, relevant government ministries, departmental agencies, and partner agencies. Consequently, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has activated a National Multi-Sectoral Emergency Operations Center for monkeypox to strengthen and coordinate ongoing response activities in country. The agency stated that a total of 21 confirmed cases with 1 death have been recorded from 9 states and the Federal Capital Territory: Adamawa 5, Lagos 4, Bayelsa 2, Delta 2, Cross River 2, FCT 2, Kano 2, Imo 1, and Rivers 1. NCDC, however, stressed that public should be aware of the risk associated with the pox and adhere to strict public health system. Over now to Oluwatobiloba Odunuga for entertainment news.
Good evening and welcome to Entertainment News segment, where we'll be discussing top happenings and recent events across the entertainment world. I am Oluwatobiloba Odunuga. Popular street sensation Naira Marley have received praises from his teeming fans after the release of his debut album, God Timing Is the Best. The singer teased his fans with the release of the anticipated album in a tweet recently. Following the release of the album, mixed reactions have trailed the album as fans praised the singer while critics slammed him. The Malian record boss had hosted a listening party on a Sunday night ahead of his album release. Under 12 hours of release, God's Timing is the best at the #1 spot on music platforms, top Nigerian album charts. The 14-track album is his singer's first since his 2017 single Is a Go pushed him to the limelight. Normally has 2 extended plays, Lord of Lamba and Gotta Dance. A number of top entertainers were in Ijebu-Jesha, Osun State, for the funeral of the late singer and saxophonist Julius Ekemode, popularly known as Orlando Julius. The service was held at St. Matthew's Cathedral Church in the town. A Christian wake was held at Okeagboja in Ijebu-Jesha. Some of the notable figures at the ceremonies were award-winning filmmaker Tunde Kilani, chairman of the Copyright Society of Nigeria, Tony Okoroji, a former president of the Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria, Tim Mark Iseli, director Richard Cole, and singer Yinka Davis, among others. It should be recalled that Julius passed away on April 5th, 2022. This is the convenient spot to draw the curtain of entertainment news segment for today. Join us next time for another sweet edition of the entertainment news. I remain your own Oluwato Global Odunuga saying bye.
Welcome to our sports segment. Over now to Omatayu Adebodun for sport reports.
Real Madrid forward Karim Benzema has been named the Champions League Player of the Season. The France international, who is 34 years, won the competition for the 5th time as Real beat Liverpool 1-0 in the final. He scored 15 goals in 12 Champions League games and is a leading contender to win this year's Ballon d'Or. Benzema's teammate Vinicius Jr., who scored the only goal in the final, has been selected as the tournament's Young Player of the Season. The 21-year-old scored 4 goals and made 6 assists in the 2021-22 campaign. The pair are joined in the Champions League Team of the Season by Real Madrid Luka Modric and goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois, who was the man of the match in Paris. Runners-up Liverpool also have 4 players included, with defender Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson, and midfielder Fabinho featuring. The Team of the Season is completed by Paris Saint-Germain striker Kylian Mbappe, Manchester City Kevin De Bruyne, and Chelsea defender Antonio Rudiger. In the meantime, Everton manager Frank Lampard has been fined £30,000 by the Football Association for his comments after a 2-0 defeat at Liverpool in April. Lampard was angered that Stuart Atwell did not award a penalty for a challenge on Anthony Gordon's by Joel Matip post-match. He suggested a penalty would have been given if the challenge had been made on a Liverpool player. The FA said Lampard breached FA Rule E3 in relation to media comments proven during a personal hearing. The Toffees contacted the Professional Game Match Official Limited after the Merseyside derby to query why the challenge on Gordon's was not reviewed. Meanwhile, the 2022-2023 UEFA Nations League starts tomorrow with all home nations in action over the next 2 weeks. The competition fills the gap created by the World Cup in Qatar moving to November. England and Northern Ireland plays 4 group games, while Wales have 4 along with the World Cup playoffs final. Scotland, who meets Ukraine in a World Cup playoffs semi-finals tomorrow, face 3 Nations League matches, including the Republic of Ireland in Dublin. The Nations League is a biennial competition and its 3rd edition. It was first won by Portugal in 2019 and France are the defending champions after beating Spain in the 2021 final. Omotayo Adebodun, OSBC News.
And now to foreign stories. Chairman of the African Union warned EU leaders that their decision to expel Russia banned from supplies to the continent. Over now to Deborah Adebuyi for this and other reports on our foreign news segment.
Chairman of the African Union warned EU leaders that their decision to expel Russia banks from the SWIFT financial messaging system risks halting food supplies from the continent. The war in Ukraine and Russia blockage of its neighbors' ports, combined with African conflict and climate change, have already sent world cereal prices surging and exacerbated food crisis in Africa. Senegalese president and AU leader Macky Sall warned Europe that it is banking sanctions, speaking by video conference to Euro leaders in Brussels. So acknowledged that Russia's blockage of Odessa had harmed Ukraine food exports, and it banned UN-led exports to free the ports. The EU leaders agreed to add Russia's largest bank, Skaba, to the growing list of lenders to be exported from the Belgian-based SWIFT network, which facilitates interbank payments. In another development, extreme forces shared a town in northern Ethiopia. According to internal United Nations documents and regional forces, it was re-abandonment after 2 months of relative peace in a conflict which began in November 2020. After 2 months of relative peaceful in conflict, bulletins from the UN sent by Reuters cited information from humanitarian organization in Shiraro saying at least 23 rounds were fired. Some hitting a school, housing displaced families, and a 40-year-old were killed. At least 18 people were injured and 12 houses were damaged. The Tigray people liberate their border. However, earlier this year, extremely President Isaias Afwerki told state media to Trump's words intervene against should Tigrayan forces attack his country and threaten Ethiopia's stability. Deborah Adewoye for OSBC News.
That ends the major report on OSBC TV. It was edited by Olumemi Ajiboye Agbola. Babatunde Bolachito is my name. Good night.